The briefing at SHE headquarters had been unusually vague. Director Fury hadn't shown him satellite photos of Hydra tanks or AIM labs. Instead, he'd handed Steve Rogers a folder filled with missing persons reports, most of them children, and a grainy photo of a single red balloon floating against a gray Maine sky. "There's a pulse in that town, Cap," Fury had said, his voice unusually low. "A heartbeat that doesn't belong to anything human. We've sent agents. They don't come back. Some call it a curse. We call it an atmospheric anomaly. You're going to call it a target." By the time Steve's motorcycle rumbled past the "Welcome to Derry" sign, the sun was a dying ember on the horizon. The evening air felt thick, like wading through stagnant water. As he coasted down the main drag, the silence was deafening. Swing sets sat still in the parks. Bicycles lay abandoned on manicured lawns. Every curtain was drawn tight, and every door was double-bolted. It wasn't just a town under curfew. It was a town in mourning, or perhaps in hiding. He parked near the town square, the heavy thud of his boots echoing against the cobblestones. "Hello?" he called out, his voice clear and commanding. "I'm with the authorities. Is anyone there?" Only the wind answered, whistling through the eaves of the old Victorian houses. Steve's instincts, honed on the battlefields of Europe, began to scream. He felt the weight of eyes, hundreds of them, watching from the sewer grates and the darkened second-story windows. It wasn't the gaze of frightened citizens. It was the predatory stare of something hungry. Suddenly, the silence was shattered. "Help, please! It hurts!" It was the voice of a young boy, high-pitched and frayed with absolute terror. It came from an alleyway just past the local pharmacy. Steve didn't hesitate. "I'm coming! Hold on!" He sprinted, his vibranium shield held tight to his arm. He rounded the corner, but the alley was empty, save for a single half-eaten paper boat floating in a puddle of rainwater. The voice drifted again, further away this time, near the edge of the barrens. "He's going to get me! Help me, mister!" Steve pushed his body to its limit, his lungs drawing in the chilled evening air. He knew it could be a trap. He had seen Hydra use the cries of the innocent to lure soldiers into minefields, but the what-if was a burden he couldn't carry. If there was even a 1% chance a child was in danger, Steve Rogers would run until his heart burst. The chase led him away from the streetlights, away from the safety of the brick buildings, and into the tangled, weeping willow trees of the Derry woods. The ground turned to soft peat and mud. The smell of the forest shifted, replaced by the cloying, sweet scent of rotting cotton candy and ancient sewers. He reached a clearing where the trees formed a natural cathedral of dead wood. The voice stopped instantly. "I'm here!" Steve shouted, his blue eyes scanning the darkness. "Where are you?" From the center of the clearing, a small red balloon rose slowly from the tall grass. The balloon popped with a sound like a gunshot. Behind it stood a figure that defied the natural order. It was a clown, dressed in silver-white suit with puffy orange pom-poms. Its face was a mask of cracked porcelain, with two vivid red lines trailing from the corners of its mouth up through its yellow, glowing eyes. "Oh, a soldier," the clown chirped, its voice vibrating with a manic flute-like quality. "A big, brave, strong soldier. Do you want a balloon, Stevie? They float. They all float down here." "I know what you are," Steve said, stepping forward, his shield raised. "You're the thing that's been taking the children. You're done terrorizing this town." The clown's face distended, its jaw unhinging to reveal rows upon rows of needle-sharp teeth that seemed to go back forever. "I am the eater of worlds, little man. I have fed on fear since the stars were cold, and your fear will taste like gold and iron." The clown, Pennywise, lunged with impossible speed, its fingers elongated into jagged black talons. Steve met the charge, swinging his shield. The vibranium slammed into the creature's chest, but it felt like hitting a mountain of wet clay. Pennywise laughed, a jagged, screeching sound, and swiped at Steve's head. Steve ducked, the claws whistling over his cowl, and delivered a powerful kick to the creature's midsection. The clown flew back, its body twisting in midair like a broken doll before landing on its feet and skittering up a tree with the agility of a spider. "You think you're brave?" Pennywise's voice now echoed from everywhere. The trees, the ground, the very air. Suddenly, the woods vanished. Steve stood on a pile of rubble in a bombed-out village in 1944. Around him lay the bodies of his fallen howling commandos. Bucky was there, his eyes vacant, staring at the sky. "You failed them," Bucky's corpse whispered. "You went into the ice and left us to die. You're just a freak in a costume, Steve. A lab rat playing hero." Steve's heart hammered against his ribs. The grief was a physical weight, a cold hand squeezing his throat. "It's not real," he grunted, closing his eyes. "You are a liar." "Am I?" Pennywise appeared beside him, now wearing the face of a skeletal, rotting Peggy Carter. "You're a man out of time, Stephen. A ghost. No one wants you. No one needs you. Why not just lie down? Why not float?" The creature's mental assault was a tide of pure despair. It dug into Steve's deepest insecurities. The fear that he was just a weapon. The fear that he would never belong. The fear that he wasn't enough to save a world that was constantly breaking. Pennywise's claws raked across Steve's back, tearing through the tactical suit. The pain was real, but the mental agony was worse. The clown grew larger, towering 10 feet tall, its form flickering between a giant spider and a winged leper. "Give up, little soldier. Your courage is a lie. Your country is gone. Your friends are dust." Steve Rogers fell to one knee. The darkness seemed to be swallowing the clearing. Pennywise stood over him, its glowing, dead lights beginning to swirl in its eyes, prepared to consume Steve's mind forever. But then Steve looked at his shield. He saw his own reflection in the star, not the super soldier, but the kid from Brooklyn who used to get beaten up in alleys and always got back up. "You're right," Steve whispered, his voice gaining strength. "I am a man out of time, and I have lost a lot." He stood up, slowly, painfully. He wiped the blood from his lip and looked Pennywise directly in those burning yellow eyes. "But as long as there's one person standing against a bully like you, hope isn't dead. You feed on fear? Well, I've spent my whole life being afraid, and I learned a long time ago that fear is just an invitation to be brave." Steve charged. He didn't just use his strength, he used his will. He slammed the edge of his shield into Pennywise's face, shattering the porcelain mask. The creature shrieked, a sound that tore at the fabric of reality. Steve followed up with a barrage of strikes. Left, right, shield bash. Every blow was fueled by the memory of the children Pennywise had taken, by the memory of the friends he had lost, and by the sheer stubborn refusal to back down. Pennywise tried to shift again, into a wolf, into a drowned man, but Steve didn't blink. He was a force of nature, a living symbol of the one thing the creature couldn't understand: selfless sacrifice. "This is for Derry," Steve roared. He leapt into the air, spinning, and brought the full weight of his shield onto the creature's head. There was an explosion of white light. A shockwave rippled through the barrenness, knocking down trees and shattering the psychic grip the monster had on the town. Pennywise collapsed, its form dissolving into a foul-smelling gray mist that seeped into the cracks of the earth. Steve stood alone in the clearing. The sun was finally beginning to peek over the horizon, casting long, golden fingers through the trees. The oppressive weight that had hung over Derry for decades was gone. He could feel it. The air was lighter. The silence was no longer a threat, but a peace. He walked back toward the town. This time, as he passed the houses, curtains were being pulled back. A window opened. An old man looked out, breathing in the morning air, and nodded to the soldier in the red, white, and blue. Steve sat on his motorcycle and pulled out his communicator. "Fury, it's Rogers. Report, Cap. Did you find the anomaly?" Steve looked back at the woods, then at the town that was finally waking up from a 30-year nightmare. "The threat is neutralized, Director. Derry is safe, but send a team to help these people. They've been through a war they don't even remember." As he rode out of town, Steve saw a single tattered red balloon caught in the branches of a tree. It didn't float, it just hung there, limp and empty, as the morning sun began to burn away the last of the shadows.